Hello, General Biology. This is our next video in our climate change series, and we're going to be discussing temperature change on the surface of the Earth. And humans have been interested in temperature for a long time and keeping really good records of temperature and really good measurements of temperature for a long time because temperature matters for farming, and farming is how we feed most of our people on this planet. So we have really good records of temperature. And we have temperatures recorded for every day since the 1880s, and we can measure and examine exactly how temperatures have changed. And it looks about that there's been an increase on average of 1 degree Celsius in 100 years. And that doesn't seem like too much to the regular person, right? Like, okay, so if the temperature is 32 on this particular day of the year, then on average it's going to be 33 on that particular day of the year. That's not that big a deal. But when we compare temperature changes over 2,000 years, and it's a little more complicated to get data that way, you got to have scientists looking at geological data and other evidence, but they can do it. When you look at it over the last 2,000 years, this change of 1 degree in 100 years is ludicrously fast. So in the past, it would increase or decrease at about 1 degree every 1,000 years. It would take 1,000 years to increase the surface temperature 1 degree. So this is where we are, and this orange is a prediction. There's like, if we continue changing 1 degree every 100 years, it's going to get real steep real fast. And that's kind of concerning to scientists because there are some real consequences to this. One, let me skip to this. One of the consequences is that our seasons are shifting. More of the planet during the course of a year is experiencing summer conditions, and the spring and fall conditions are shrinking in time, and the winter conditions are shrinking in time. So organisms that rely on seasons are having a tougher time having less amount of time for certain activities. Also, this change is happening very, very fast. If we go back, right, this is a very steep curve. And some say, well, won't the organisms adapt? Won't the species adapt? Adaptations occur over generations. And generations take time for organisms. And so if the change happens fast, really fast, then lots of organisms won't have time to adapt. And it is having an effect. So one example is monarch butterflies. They're noticing that monarch butterflies, they're not migrating like they used to. They used to go south when it gets cold. Well, now, because the seasons are like the fall and the winter and the spring seasons are shorter, they're not going south as far, and they're not staying down there as long. And some may say, well, who cares where the monarch butterflies are? They are major pollinators. So that means the producers in those areas aren't being able to reproduce like they used to, because monarchs help plants reproduce. That's what it means to be a pollinator. So that has a major effect on the producers of those ecosystems. So those ecosystems are going to change. Sea turtles, whether the sea turtle egg hatches as a biological female or a biological male depends on the temperature of the egg at certain points in development. So when temperatures rise, you get a lot more female sea turtles and a lot fewer male sea turtles, which means reproduction of sea turtles go down. And sea turtles are a keystone species because they eat species that eat producers. So that's going to change water ecosystems. Elephants, because summers are longer, a lot of the watering pools are evaporating. So they have fewer freshwater lakes and ponds and streams that they can use for drinking. So the African elephant population is decreasing. And this is having a secondary problem because African elephants use their tusks to dig for water, and they create watering holes for other species. But if there's fewer elephants because there's not enough water, then that's going to reduce the amount of watering holes overall, which is going to reduce other species as well. So this is kind of a big deal, and scientists and ecologists are a little worried because the change is happening so fast and many species aren't going to be able to adapt. So let's review. Since the 1880s, the temperature of the Earth has risen about 1 degree Celsius in 100 years. And then for the 20,000 years before that, it took about 1,000 years for temperature to increase 1 degree Celsius. And this is caused by the increasing amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. This results in longer summers and shorter winters. And it's concerning for scientists because species need time to adapt. This change is happening 10 times faster than it's happened in the past. This affects monarch butterflies because it messes up their migration and they can't pollinate species as they used to. It can mess up sea turtles because there'll be more females than males and they won't reproduce like they used to. And it can mess up African elephants because there's not enough water for the African elephants, and African elephants find water for other species. So that's a problem. And there are lots of examples. These were just 3 that I found. I hope this helps. Struggle well.